Hello and welcome to Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain Europe. We're here in Bonn, and back on the red sofa with us is Peter Hörndlein, Managing Director of Vehicle Logistics from Volkswagen Group Logistics. Hi Peter, it's great to have you. I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the things that you shared with us throughout the event today. You shared how, Volkswagen Group is testing automated vehicle movements at the Port of Emden. And, looking back on that pilot so far, what has been your biggest operational takeaway, not just from the technology itself, but, in how it's changed the way you organize vehicle flows within the yard and connect those movements into, the wider outbound network?
Well, first of all, we still have to realize and recognize it is still a research project or a pilot project. And so far, the results have been very promising. But the major key takeaway from my side is that it's really possible to have remote controlled or automated driven vehicles, and they are smoothly interacting with manually driven vehicles. So that proves that the technology is ready, that you can operate a yard or a port or a compound and combine basically the two worlds. Today's status where every car needs a driver, and also having the first step into tomorrow where you can steer the vehicles in an automated way. And I think this is really a big step forward, because it helps to improve vehicle movements on the yard a lot in terms of profitability, in terms of efficiency. But also what this project nicely shows is that you can transfer the technology rather easily to other locations, to other compounds, because you're using a public 5G network. So basically you can apply the technology everywhere, and that allows you to start vehicle logistics movements or thinking about vehicle logistics movements in a new way.
Perfect, thank you. You also explained on stage there that the intelligence largely sits within the infrastructure itself rather than the vehicles. But given that the vehicle logistics sites handle a mix of fleets and different generations of vehicles, how are you managing that interaction between automated vehicle movements and manual driven cars in the same yard environment?
That was basically one key requirement from our side. That we said we need to make sure that the technology works. And also from today, where you have the manually driven vehicles, until in the future when you also see autonomously driven vehicles where the intelligence sits in the car on level 5, whenever that really be the case, or whenever that really will apply for the whole fleet, this technology is capable to combine these worlds. So at the moment they smoothly interact with the manually driven vehicles. They stop, they respect the rules of driving, they know how to interact when they have to go into a roundabout or overtake. But also for the future, that technology will help and will also be able to interact with autonomously driven vehicles. The only thing that really matters is that the cars basically get the orders, the data in a certain data format, in a data standard, and also the communication between the remote vehicle operating system and the car itself follows ISO standards, because this will be especially important if you not only think about our own plant yards or about our own control ports where exclusively Volkswagen Group vehicles are handled, but also if you look at service providers who handle cars for multiple OEMs, and they cannot introduce different systems for different OEMs. So we really need to get to a standard that one system fits all or suits all at the end of the day.
Perfect. And, we spoke a lot about the use of AI to improve demand prediction and capacity planning yesterday. So, as automation, it really increases in yards and compounds, how important does that forecasting become in making those systems work more effectively across the wider outbound logistics network?
Well, demand prediction is really key for the finished vehicle business, because capacities, whether it's space on yards and compounds, whether it's driver availability, whether it's equipment availability, that's really the limiting factor. And we have to use the available capacities very wisely. So every improvement we can do in predict the demands, where they are rising, at what quantity they are rising, that helps to allocate the capacities more precisely, and that helps to make the whole system more efficient. the least thing you want to see is to see an empty truck on the motorway that just needs to go somewhere in order to pick up cars there, because it has been at the wrong end beforehand. So we really need to be precise on the prediction, that we can basically then align demand and capacities and allocate them and make the best usage out of them.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, how, as these technologies like automation, AI, begin to really scale across the industry, what kind of governance and standardization and even industry collaboration is needed to ensure, interoperability, but also leave room for innovation?
Well, I really can only repeat myself. We need to adhere to standards when it comes to data formats or exchange interfaces. Everybody can have its own operating system in the background, and nothing is wrong about that, and nobody wants to change that. But basically, when you interact with a remote vehicle operating system, or when that remote vehicle operating system interacts with the cars, the data format should be standardized, or you should adhere to ISO communication standards, because this will be really a key enabler to apply the technology throughout the whole industry. And hopefully, especially in our industry, that's important, since it's still some kind of a niche product what we are doing, like governing structures like the ECG, or also to address that on conferences like on ALSC Europe. That plays a key role and creates the awareness, and hopefully we get really throughout the industry a good grip on that one, because everybody should be interested in applying that technology, because at the end of the day it'll help OEMs, it'll help service providers, it will help trucking companies in order to really make the most use of the available capacities.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Peter, for joining us on the Red Sofa again. I'm looking forward to sharing all of those insights with our audience at home.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks a lot, Emily. Thanks.